Okay guys, this is gonna be part 1 of Project 3's demo video. So as we all know, we are gonna start with a page in our Bristol pad, the 11 by 14 one, this one here. So I just went ahead and took a page out of the book, and I'm gonna go ahead and give a demo on the swatches. So for that, you're gonna want to start with a pencil and a ruler. Now these swatches need to be 5 inches by 5 inches. So I know some of us have been doing a little bit less than that in order to fit 6 on a page, which is totally fine. You can also do it as 4 on a page. I will try my best to make it as even as I can. So I'm just putting the ruler here, measuring out where 5 inches would be. And then I'm gonna measure out this way in 5-inch intervals. We'll leave a little space in between, just a little bit, so that they don't overlap. And we'll start here and do another 5 inches. So that's 2, and then we'll have 4 by the time. So you don't have to line all these out, but it is helpful in terms of just eyeballing, at least for one of them, how big it's gonna be, how big the swatches should be. So it is kind of helpful to do, just to have an idea of how big the swatches are gonna be. So, just drawing some lines, and then I draw one straight across so that we get an idea of what I'm looking at here. So these, if you wanna make yours a little bit smaller and make it so that you have 6 on a page, that's fine with me too. But here's just an example. We got 4 boxes here, okay? So just like that. So now, for the first swatch, it's gonna be, as you know, 6 for each of the different color studies. So we're gonna start with the chromatic grays. So for chromatic gray, I'm gonna choose a color. I'm gonna choose, we'll say I'll use the flame red. So that's this one here. So for chromatic grays, you are mixing this either with black, white, or the complement. So I have my little thing here. And the formula for this is 30% of the original color coming right out of the tube and 80% of the mixer. So you're gonna get quite a muted color afterwards. So I'm gonna put some of this on here. And then I'm going to mix mine with white, just because I have white right here. So it's gonna be more white than your original color. So I'm gonna put this down in here, and you'll see that my white blob is a lot bigger than my red blob of paint. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a little bit of the red right off of here and mix it in with the yellow, with the white. So when I'm done, it's gonna be quite a muted color, quite a dull color, excuse me, because this is our chromatic gray. So something like this. Now there's a lot of white in it, and the original color is extremely desaturated. So just about like that. So you can see my original color here, and when I mixed it with the white, this is gonna be our chromatic gray. So then what I would go ahead and do is take my brush and paint one of my swatches here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If you want, you can take your swatches up. I don't necessarily think you need to, because there's a lot of, and excuse my brush, there's a little bit of blue on it, which I haven't gotten all out yet. So you'll paint the swatch. I'm gonna switch brushes so that you can see what I'm doing here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna walk away from the camera. Grab this brush. This will be better because this doesn't have any blue on it. Sorry, I didn't realize how much blue was on that other one. I'm just painting in my swatch. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it sort of a nice even application of paint. In terms of like staying in the lines, it doesn't have to be super perfect. We just want like a nice swatch of color here. It doesn't have to be super inside the lines. Just as long as you have a nice even application of paint, you're good. So something like that, and that would be then my chromatic gray swatch. Okay, so I'm gonna do one for each of the things. So then you would repeat this 6 times for your chromatic gray swatches. Then moving on to muted colors. I'm gonna use the same color just so you can tell the difference. Muted colors are gonna be the same, require sort of the same process as mixing a chromatic gray. You're gonna start with original color. I'm gonna use the red again. And you're going, but the formula to mix is a little bit different. So to mix a muted color, you're gonna use 80% of the original color, the flame red that we're using straight out of the tube. And then we're gonna use only 30% of the mixer, which my mixer that I'm choosing to use is white. So just a little tiny bit of white I'm gonna put on my palette. And then I'm gonna take all this red here that I got and mix the white in with it. So what you're gonna get is a slightly duller version of the original color that you had. And it's a little hard to tell through the screen, but if you bring it up closely, you can tell this one's a little bit richer, the original color over here. It's a little bit richer, and this one's a little bit duller. So that would be then your muted color. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that swatch on here. Now when you would do this, you would do all your swatches for each color for each study on the same sheet of paper. So it wouldn't be like mix and match like this, but I'm just doing this for demo purposes so you can see the difference. So this is my muted color, slightly more dull than the original color, the flame red that we're using. And I'm just painting in a nice solid square, just like that. Okay, so that will be your muted color swatch. So we got chromatic gray here, and then we got our muted color right there. Okay, so then for prismatic colors, that's a little different. For prismatic colors swatches, this is an example of a color that hasn't been altered at all by the addition of black, white, or its complement. So it's a pure color straight out of the tube. So any of these colors you can find on the outer ring of your color wheel project that you did. So it's going to include primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, and then it can also include your secondary colors, orange, green, and purple, and your tertiary colors, which would be red, orange, yellow, orange, things like that go all the way around the outer ring of your color wheel. So for this purpose, I'm going to choose an ultramarine blue, which is our primary blue that we use for this class. And straight out of the tube, I'm going to take it and put a little bit on my palette, which I'll show you here. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my brush, dip it in my water, which is over here, and just make a swatch. Same sort of process. And this would be one of my primary swatches then, my prismatic color swatches. So just nice and easy there. I'm not gonna paint all the way up to the line there because this box is like slightly bigger than 5 by 5, just because of how I measured it out. You can tell. Because your 5 by 5 box would be essentially a square. This one's a little bit longer, but it's fine. The swatches just have to be large enough that you're gonna be able to cut shapes out of them, basically. I'm not picky, just as long as you can get some nice shapes out of it. I'm sorry for hearing the construction noise outside my studio. All right, so then that would be my prismatic color swatch, because this is a color that has been unaltered. It's straight out of the tube. So just like that. So here's an example of the first three then. You got your chromatic gray, your muted color, and your prismatic swatch here. Okay, and then we're gonna move on, and we're gonna do an example of your combined saturation, which actually you can pick, because combined saturation study would be a study of a highly saturated color, which would be something like this ultramarine blue that we took straight out of the tube, a mid-tone color, which would be something like our muted color here, this one that's like slightly less saturated, and then this would be an example of our least saturated color, because it has been completely altered by the addition of a mixer. So for your combined saturation study, you would essentially just pick 2 of the swatches from each of the 6 swatch study, each of the 3 previous swatch studies that you did, the 6 swatches for each of the previous studies, and pick 2 from each of the previous studies, and then you can make a combined saturation swatch page. So really it could be all 3 of these. So I'm not gonna paint that out for you, but you can choose to do a mix of them. So then you'd have 2 highly saturated colors, 2 very unsaturated colors, and 2 mid-tone colors. And then that would make up your combined saturation swatch study, and then eventually your collage. So then for part 2, I'm gonna pause this, and then we're gonna do part 2.